Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Average Superstar TV. I'm your host, Lauren Lepre, and this week we welcome an actor we all know from the 80s and from our iconic horror movies. This guy starred in movies such as Children of the Corn, Back to the Future, The Burbs, Can't Buy Me Love, and Memphis Belle. He's also been involved in television shows such as It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, CCI, and My Name is Earl. He has also been busy with his new film, The Wrath of Becky, and he also is a musician and is plugging away his new album, Safe Haven. So with that, I welcome to the show, Courtney Gaines.
Hey, man, good to see you. Now, here's the thing you were mentioning before, like this has never happened to you before or rarely. I have to tell you, technical stuff snafus on me all the time. So, like, it's me. I'm the problem. I make technical stuff act wacky. You know how many people I've had to tell me, this has never happened before. This computer's never. I'm like, it's me, man. I don't know what it is. I make technology go wacky sometimes. So sorry about that, brother.
It's all good. So for a guy who's also best known for movies, how do you transition over to being someone who's now doing music?
Yeah, that's very accurate. I started taking music lessons at 13, guitar lessons, and acting lessons at 13. But the difference was that my acting mentor was a working actor. Virgil Fry is his name. He's no longer with us. His daughter is Soleil Moon Fry. His son, Sean Fry, was in E.T. and Original Fun with Dick and Jane. And so he was an established guy, and he ended up becoming my manager. And those things had great impact, right? And musically, I studied with some guy who wasn't as established and didn't really, and I didn't have much help along the road musically, the same level I did as an actor until recently, until really this label that's picked up the record, Fake Fang Records, which is a local Savannah record label. A guy named Jim Reed, he's also a very accomplished drummer in this town and knows everybody, is really become like the guy who's taking me under his wing and helped me along. And now we just had a meeting today. He's also going to take on being my booking agent for booking gigs across the country, which is exciting because my intention was definitely to promote this record for the next year. You know, next year, we're going to spend the year as much as we can getting out there and promoting this record. So it's coming together, you know, but it's taken somebody to get behind me who believes, is willing to put in the work. That's what it always takes. It's never just you, man. It's like, you got to have a team who is willing to invest in you.
Absolutely. So where did you come up with your music?
For this particular record?
Sure.
Or in general, because like I was like, if you go back into some previous records, like if you go into my previous band, Ripple Street, we put out a record in 2009. That whole record is just a straight breakup record. If you listen to it, that's what it's about, and that's where I was at. So it was more of a self-reflective, grieving record. I put out a record in 2021 called Acoustic Gains Volume 1. That's all just acoustic material. That's also a little more personal. This record is definitely, Safe Haven is definitely more of a storytelling record and more a bit of a character point of view. Like one song's called The Healer. It's told from the point of view of a plastic surgeon trying to convince a woman to do surgery. So that's very different. There's a song called Bills in Space about the billionaire space race, which I think is it's kind of ridiculous. I think I would like those same 3 billionaires to figure out affordable housing on this planet instead. How about that? A single that's coming out on Monday called Look Out is a very classic sort of film noir storyline that if I ever get to do a music video, I'll do it black and white, you know, very 40s, very film noir. So this is more of a storytelling record and more of a focusing on some things I just want to point out that I think are kind of ridiculous. But in a fun way, right? Not hopefully in a preachy way. It's a matter of just getting out to them and then having them take the time to take a listen, right? Like I picked a particular PR company to help me this time named Clawhammer PR. And the reason I picked them is because they mainly put out metal records. So that's my core audience, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I'm not playing metal, that's still my core audience, right? From Children of the Corn and such. So what I hope for is that they go, what? This dude plays music? Are you kidding me? And then they at least take a listen, right? That's all I can ask, right? And, I figure the bar honestly is fairly low because there's many actors, musicians who aren't that great, right? Let's face it. Some of them are kind of, embarrassing. So it's like good. They're not expecting too much. So if it turns out that they actually enjoy it, that's a real bonus, right? So I'm just asking for that. Take a listen. You got nothing to lose. 5 minutes of your life. If you don't like it, move on. But generally speaking, people are a little surprised. I'm not the greatest musician. I would never say that. I'm not even the greatest vocalist. But I've been writing music for a long time, and that's where I really hang my hat. I think I can structure and write a pretty good tune. And I've been playing live enough and playing original music enough to know that people actually have reacted to the stuff. It's not just because you're going to, it's the moment of truth. If you put it like I have a band now, the Courtney Gaines Group, which you can find on Facebook, and we're in Savannah, and we're playing, there's a lot of gigs out here because it's a tourist town. So we're playing like, 3 sets a night, 3 45-minute sets a night. We have to do 70% covers, 30% originals. And these people are not invested in me. These are people going out to dinner or at a bar, and if they don't like it, they're tuning out. And that's fair. Some of them don't even know who I am, which is great. But then there's sometimes, like we did a gig in Augusta not too long ago, where it was really hyped that it was me, and so everybody was there to see me, and you can see the look on their face before the gig. It was like, is this going to suck and be hysterical, or is this going to be good and we're going to have a good time? It's sort of, this is the look. You can feel the room. The room's like, okay, are we going to get a good yuck here, or is this going to be fun? And, by the second song in, they saw that we're not a joke. We can play. I got a good band around me. It's a trio. I play bass and sing in this band. And then they end up just having a good time. So that's all I asked for, is take a shot on me, take a listen, see, I might surprise you, right?
Absolutely. You're living the dream. So you recently were in a new movie called The Wrath of Becky. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, I had two really good things come out worked in last year that came out this year. One was The Wrath of Becky, which is the sequel to Becky, which did really well in 2020 as a drive-in movie during the pandemic. And so they made a second one, which I'm really happy the way it came out. And I knew during the pandemic, I started growing this beard. I said, I grow this beard, a Proud Boy type role is going to come. And that's exactly what happened with this character. These characters are called the Noblemen, take off on the whole Proud Boys thing. I even played banjo in it, which I didn't play banjo. They're like, can you play banjo? I said, I don't know. Give me a banjo, see if I can figure it out. And it's just this ridiculous over the top song, like, get out of my country if you ain't as white as we, we're the noblemen. It's hilarious.
Did you get to write that?
I didn't write the lyrics, but I wrote the song.
Okay.
But it is out. I would have never had the guts to write a line that outrageous, to be honest. But the movie, if you know the movie, it's a little campy, it's a little like sort of making fun of all this stuff in a way, but with action and horror at the same time. It works. But so the second thing I got to do is I got hired by a rock star in New York to do a video game. They wouldn't tell me what it was. They were like keeping everything on the download because people always leak the stuff before it comes out. And people were kind of saying, it might be Grand Theft Auto. I was like, really? That would be amazing. So it turned out it was Grand Theft Auto Los Santos Drug Wars, which is the online thing. So part one came out in December and part 2 came out in March. And I play this character named Lab Rat, which if you want to go on like Facebook, they're called cut scenes. You can see all the scenes of the ones when you're not playing the game. And man, this character is hilarious. Lab Rat's the guy who makes all the acid and everything for this drug place. And I always say it's like the closest thing to playing Dennis Hopper. It's like my ode to Dennis Hopper, kind of, And it came out really good, and it's really a lot of fun. So I'm really happy with the last couple of things that have come out. Now I can't always say that. Sometimes I do some independent movie that comes out all right or whatever, but these two are really strong. So I'm very pleased with the work I've been doing lately.
So you're a great person to ask this question to. You were very active in the 80s. What's it like in the process from the 80s to getting an acting role now these days? Like the audition process?
Oh, it's changed a lot. right? Now which is one of the reasons I can live in Savannah now and I don't have to be in LA, because now it's all what they call self-taping. It's all online. You shoot it on your phone or a camera and you send it in. And so it's a completely different animal. There's advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is I don't feel as much nerves before I go in. Before I'm going in the audition room where I feel this pressure that I'm only going to get one take at it and I got to get it the first time. It's a lot of pressure. So if I don't do it, I'll do like 3 takes, just like I'm doing a film. I figure if I'm not better by the 3rd take, I'm not going to get better. Like, that's what I got. I'll give it 3 shots and I'll take the best 1 or best 2 and send them off. So on that level, I like it because I can just do it out of the comfort of my own home and not feel pressure. The flip side is that there's that many more people auditioning from all over the country. And I think because of that, there's a bunch of interns watching your auditions who may not know me from Jack, right? They're like 20 years old, right? Or whatever. And they're like, dude was all right. I'm not passing that one on to the director or the producer or the casting director. You never even get in front of the right people you need to get in front of. So that's like the downside, because the first time when I first got out to the Southeast, I auditioned a bunch of times and I wasn't getting shit. And I was like, what's going on? If this was LA and I had this number of auditions, I usually average like 1 out of 10 auditions I book, which is a very high average for auditioning. Even though it doesn't sound very good, 10% is like a very good. So if I can get like 30 auditions a year, I can book 3 jobs a year. I can make a living. It's kind of the numbers. I auditioned way more than that when I first moved out here, and I didn't book anything. I was like, this is bullshit. Are these people even seeing my tapes? Like, what's going on? And I think part of it was they were like, is this dude who's lived in Hollywood 30 plus years, is he really here? Is this BS? They had to and then I had to book a few jobs outside of it in Atlanta or in North Carolina. And then they started going, okay, he's actually getting work here. Okay, he's real. And started getting to know the casting directors. And then I started booking more. But that first run was like I was like, what? There's no way I could strike out this many times. I'm a hitter, son. When I get to the plate, I get hits. But so the old school was you would go in and audition in the room in the beginning. If you're just starting out, you would just first audition for the casting director. If they liked you, they'd bring you back usually the same day, sometimes the next day, for the director and the producers. I got to the point where I would just go straight to producers. It's called. I'm just sort of bypassed. I had enough of a reputation at that point. I could sort of bypass the the first step usually. But it wasn't, it's TV. They're so overwhelmed and knocking out an episode every week. You go in that room and they're just like dead, no energy. They're just kind of But when you get a film, they're all excited because the film just got greenlit and they're casting it. They only have to cast once. They're not having to cast every week. And TV, they're just trying to make sure finding somebody they know can deliver, because in a couple days you're on set and you're having to do it and it's moving real fast. So it's not like it's not like
doing TV auditions.
Say that again.
You can never say how you think you might have done when you're reading for a television.
For me, the audition process is like this. If I did what I came to do, I can leave the room and not second guess it. And if I get the job, I get it. I don't. I showed up. I gave them my interpretation. I think that's the thing where people don't understand in auditioning. Auditioning is really about giving your interpretation to the material. Like, how do you see it, right? Not how you think they want to see it or like that, but what's your take on it? If you can find that, you stand a chance of getting a job. Because you might I've had people tell me before, you walked in the room, I was like, oh, this dude's not, they already made their mind up before I started that I wasn't physically what they were looking for or whatever. It's just like looking at you're at a bar and you're like, I would date that girl. I wouldn't date there. Oh, girls like, I find that guy. It's like our minds are quick. But if you give an audition they never saw coming, they might go, holy crap, I see this in a whole new light. This is my guy. That's happened to me before. So I think it's important to have, what's your take on this? What's your version of this? Because otherwise you're just going to do it like everybody else. And that's not going to make you stand out at all, But the pressure was much higher in auditions in person. But the other advantage was you could feel the room, you could read the room, and you could say some things if necessary. I didn't always talk. If I came in like deep into character, I didn't even want to talk to anybody. But I'll give you an example. Like Memphis Belle, when I went on a Memphis Belle, I knew that every young actor, from A-list actors of that age to where I was, maybe B minus or something, wanted that job. That was the job to get. I said to myself, this is about, if I'm here, they're looking for an ensemble team. It's not just about having a bunch of stars in this project. So I was in a really good ensemble theater company called Friends and Artists Theater Ensemble that was well known in LA. And so when the guys, when I walked in, the director said, "How you doing?" I said, "Ensemble is my forte." I said, "I'm in one of the best ensemble theater companies in town. We're doing a very difficult play right now that's winning Dramalog awards." And I said, I said, "So I just want you to know that's where I'm at. I like ensemble work." And he was like, "This is really refreshing." He says, "In New York, all people want to know is about the script." He says, "In LA, all people want to know is what's their role." He said, my audition was okay, but that perked his ears up. And then I got lucky. Patrick Dempsey was also auditioning. He was much hot, or he was being considered. He was much hotter at that moment. They sent in his tape, and on his tape was my "Can't Buy Me Love" scene where I say "you shit on my house," and that scene rocks. And that dude was like, "Oh, okay." And that's what he told me. So he said, really, it was seeing that tape plus what you said that got you this job. So you can't do that in a self-tape. You can't read a room. You can't do things like that. So there's advantages and disadvantages, but things change.
So I believe that Children of the Corn was your first film role?
It was my first film. I did a national commercial for Safeguard Soap before that in New York. They flew me out from LA, and that was a real education. I did more takes on that commercial than I've ever done since in my life. I think I did 105 takes.
Wow.
And I kept hearing the script supervisor, which I didn't even know what a script supervisor was at that time, going 5, 10, 15. I'm like, what is he doing? What is he doing? The director's like, "Don't worry about it. Keep going, keep going, keep going." Finally, about halfway through, I realized what he was doing was saying that I was 10 to 15 seconds over the time of the dialogue necessary for a 30-second commercial, because I was acting, right? I was taking my moments and shit, right? Yeah, and once I realized that, I picked up the pace and started trying to come in on time. I never saw that commercial. I don't know if it ever ran. But the director was great. And he was like, he's like, "Everybody works for me, goes on to bigger and better things. You're going to do good." And then, Children of the Corn happened.
When that film was announced, how do we even get your name into the hat?
How I got my name in the hat on that one was the casting director was a fan. And that's when people ask for advice. That's my two things are, study, so you're ready when an opportunity shows up. Like, be good at what you do. Acting's not as easy as you think. That's one. Two is, if you can get 1, 2, 3 casting directors to believe in you, you can work. Because if you can get a casting director or 2 to champion you, you come in there, you leave an impression, and after that they say, "I want to get this guy work." That's huge, because they're the first one. Their job is to bring talent into the room. And then to show directors and producers people that they can choose from. And then if they like you and it comes down to 1 or 2, they're down to 3 people, they may give you the nod. They may say, "This is the one I believe in." And Linda Francis was her name. She had seen me in a showcase, which back in the 80s, that was a thing. That was the beginning of that, where they would have in a theater, small theater, they'd invite a bunch of casting directors, some agents and managers, give them wine and a nice meal. And then they would watch a bunch of actors do like 3-4 minute scenes. And so I did a number of those that I just really fell into through some classes I was taking. And it really helped get me started. And it got me my first manager. It got me Linda Francis. So Linda cast me in one movie, and that then didn't happen. But I was like, she already cast me once, and then she brought me in for Corn, and she was definitely behind me to get the job. And it made, when it came down to the final analysis, she was saying, "That's my guy, that's my guy," and it made a huge difference in my life. Changed my life, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. But I've had other casting directors that were the same way, that just believed in my work and kept bringing me back. And sometimes I'd have to audition, 20 times I booked with them, but they kept bringing me back. That's especially for television. My Name is Earl, which is a show I loved. I auditioned for 4 seasons for that. I went back, I don't know, man, 10 times. And I ended up booking the best role. So some actors get discouraged and they start getting there with that. You're like, well, what do you want? Then you haven't hired me. What am I doing? I don't think like that. My mentality was, if they keep bringing me back, they're trying to find a place for me. They're trying to give me a job. We just got to find the right fit. And in that case, like I said, it ended up being by far the best role. One of my favorite guest stars I've ever done, because the character was nerdy, but he was also, once he bought this car that became a lemon car, he became edgy and a little crazy. So I got to play like my Can't Buy Me Love character plus my crazy characters all in one character, which I rarely get to do. And I love that show. And that was a great concept, about karma and, all like that. It was like very 12-step,
Without a doubt. Actors should be worried about not getting called back.
I auditioned for NYPD Blue so many times. They would joke and say, we're going to give you your own office here. And I never got one, but I ended up getting another show they did called Brooklyn South that only did a season, but it was a great role. And they thought of me for the role and they brought me in and I booked it. And it was because they saw me consistently do good work in very different characters to the point where they saw I could play a certain role that was a nice role. And nobody else had really brought me in for, but they'd seen enough of my work that they were like, we can find something for this guy. So you just have to keep hitting the bricks and keep staying positive and keep doing good work,
So my next question is the Burbs in 2 pieces. 1, how fun was the movie set? And 2, your character didn't say much. Were you wishing you had more lines, or were you just having fun as is?
Yeah, I don't mind not having dialogue. I don't think in those terms, like, these actors who count who has more lines or some stuff like that. It doesn't really pertain. I mean, Children of the Corn, I don't talk that much either, if you really think about it.
You're right.
So, but you don't have to talk to have a presence on screen. It's really about what's going on internally, right? Your internal dialogue, as they say.
The Klopeks had barely any dialogue.
Yeah, and so, really, I've shared this before, but like what I worked with that character was an animal essence. I don't do that for all characters, but then Dustin Hoffman always does an animal essence. If you watch his work, you can see him doing it. But that one, it was the essence of a scared deer, a deer in the headlights, because this guy was a stranger in a strange land. And I think when you watch the film, you can see that. You can very much see that he's lost, and it worked. It worked. That whole thing worked, and it really informed. If you make this, that's what I mean by making choices. You make a choice of a scared deer, and then when she touches you and you have the candles, you jump, because that's when you see a deer, they run, right? It informs that physicality, by making that choice. Another animal would do something else, right? If I played a boar, I would charge her, right? You know what I mean? It's like, so you make a choice that fits what you're doing and it informs your choices. And like I said, I don't always do that. To me, every job is different. Every character is different, but you're always looking for a way in, you're always looking for a way into the truth, into the essence of this person. What's their core, you're trying to find, at least that's what I'm doing. And that's what I find interesting about it. To me, acting is psychology to some degree. It's like, how does, you ask yourself, how did this person become this person, right? We have events in our lives, 4 or 5, maybe events, 3, 4 or 5 events in our childhood that greatly affect the way we think and what we believe and why we are the way we are. And if you can look at a character and sort of figure out their psychology and figure out the things that have them function the way they do, you start to see, the idea is to see it through somebody else's lens, not your own. And to me, that's the privilege of acting, is I get to walk in other people's shoes. And when you walk in other people's shoes, you see things differently. Like playing this character like he's a Proud Boy. I could easily go into judgment and say, oh, he's everything about him is wrong and blah 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 blah. But really, you know, these extremes that are going on with complete wokeness on the left and hardcore, you know, Proud Boy stuff on the right, it's too much. I get that, but there's a gray area. You know, people in the middle America, you know, they're a little afraid of, you know, a lot of the LGBTQ stuff they're seeing now, and it scares them. You know, it's not just that they're mean; it's that they're like scared because their value.
They're not used to it.
Yeah, they're not used to it, and they also have a set of values that they don't feel those people are respecting. Like, you know, if you watch, you know, any person from like, you know, the country will tell you it's like it's God, family, and country in that order, and they mean it. Like they mean it. Like those three things matter to them, and anything that threatens that, or they perceive as a threat to that, is gonna ruffle the feathers. Now, that doesn't mean I feel they have the right to repress people and tell them what they should do. I don't. But I also think I can understand where they're coming from, and I think of both sides that did a little more of that, there might be some dialogue. And if somebody, you know, from that felt those things, talk to somebody else who's, you know, maybe a transvestite, and they sat there and talked, they might find they have more in common than they think, right? You know what I'm saying?
Without a doubt. And if both sides are coming at everybody with what do you expect the other side to respond? So everyone's going to drop it and try to have a conversation.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. But I think that, you know, whether it be YouTube and their algorithms or right, you know, remember back in my day, you know, when I was young, the news was just telling you the news. It wasn't telling you their point of view of the news. But now you have Fox stoking things on their side, and you got CNN a little bit on the left stoking things on their side, and no one's just telling the damn news anymore. It's like, I don't give a shit what you think. Just tell me the facts, you know?
And there's strange things that we don't know. So I don't understand why people get behind either party to that degree.
I don't either. But I think not everybody is. I think that's why there's a lot more independence now. And I think there's a lot of gray area. Most people are just not that extreme. If you really get down and get to know people, they're not that extreme. Now, this character I played, he was buying into all of it. And that's what I was, in essence, exposing. Like, you know, he was into 4chan and all that stuff. And so he was like, you know, because this girl's, it's a young girl who's like whooping our ass and everything. He's like, you know, talking about, you know, all the, you know, women pitting us against each other. He's getting into all these things he learned online that are, you know, you can go down some crazy rabbit holes online if you got the time, man. They're all there for sure. But, you know, you got to question, like, who's telling you this? Is it all true? Take what you like and leave the rest. But there's a lot of people making money off keeping people's eyeballs, you know, glued to these screens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this is the part of the show where I have my guests play the game of 10 rounds. This is the part where I take a perfect blend of music and movies and history. This is where my audience gets to know the guest a little better. What's your favorite venue to see a concert?
The favorite venue to rock? I know the venue I want to go. I know the venue I want to go to.
Okay.
I want to go to Red Rocks in Colorado. That's where I want to go. I remember when I was shooting Shirt on the Corn in 84, I came home from work and I turned on the TV and U2, before, you know, they were just breaking, played at Red Rocks, and it started to rain halfway through the show. And they, of course, they're from Ireland. Rain's like nothing. And it was just an amazing show. I was like, who the hell is this band? This is like really good. And I was like, man, I want to see a show at Red Rocks someday. So that's the one.
Favorite band?
That's impossible. You can't say like favorite band. I hate like favorite act. Like you have to pick one. Come on. If I had to pick one though, I think people know this band's good and it's not an unpopular band, but I always still somehow feel like they're slightly underrated, and that's Led Zeppelin. I feel like if you put record against record, you know, like song for song record, I think Zeppelin's really hard to beat, you know, because their albums really flow good, man. Like there's no turkeys on their records. There's like no bad songs. Maybe until you get to like into the outdoor, then, you know, that was kind of the end of everything. But those guys, I think they're really good.
you kind
of mixed this question with the next one. What is your most underrated band?
Okay, but but it's sort of hard to say they're underrated. You know who I would say I talk about her all the time, and I don't know if she'll ever see me talking about her, but one of my favorite records, and I think an artist that has kind of been forgotten, is Janice Ian. Her record, Between the Lines. I wish at 17, her big, or that record to me just is the most melancholy. Talk about the Smiths and stuff. Listen to that record. If that record doesn't want to make you cry, I don't know what does. I finally got to see her perform once. I was so excited. And she only played at 17. She wouldn't play anything from the record because she said it's just too depressing. And I couldn't even be mad at her. As much as I wanted her to play those songs, I understood because that record captured my teen melancholy better than I captured the essence of that better than anything I've ever heard. So I hope she does some songwriting stuff. I'm thinking of going to take a class. I just hope she doesn't make hurt my feelings too much or something, because I really, really respect her, and she's tough. She's a really, she's a real artist, man. And I really have a lot of respect for her. So
your favorite album?
Oh, so you're killing me. I'd have to say Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, these are popular things I'm picking, but I just don't know there's a better concept album ever made,
Your favorite actor?
My favorite actor?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, that's terrible. That's a terrible question. Oy. How we do the favorite actor I've ever worked with? I'd say it's Bruce Dern, but I've always been a really big Bruce Dern fan. I think he's fantastic. I've got to work with him twice now, and I think he's his mind is so fast and so sharp, and the things he comes up with, like that line, "Hey, where are you going, Pinocchio?" That was an improv, And there's several things he did in that movie that were like that, but but they were all tasty, right? There wasn't like he said shit that was just like, that's not useful. When Brother Theodore barks, everybody's like, that's a 10 on the Richter scale there, Rube. That was another improv. Just that's genius. You know what I mean? Just good stuff. And he was really great to me. He really took a shine to my work, and he let me know, and he really helped build my confidence, and he gave me some really good advice. And one of my only regrets is that I was young, and I just didn't stay in touch with people much. I didn't really think about those kind of things. And there was a door open to stay in touch with them and get more, sage advice. And I didn't really take advantage of that. And I wish I had, because he had been there, done that already. And he had a lot of knowledge. And, but still, it still meant the world to me that he recognized the work that I was doing and liked it, because I'm a big fan.
And your favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie? Oh my God. Oh, maybe The Manchurian Candidate, the original one. That's a kick-ass film. That's a kick-ass film. Yeah, I like On the Waterfront a lot too. But yeah, I made my son watch 3 films. I'd watch anything he wanted when he was a kid, and as long as it had a fart joke in it, they were good, right? That's the studies they've done. Scatophobic humor, the kid will laugh, it's good. But I said, you have to watch 3 films. You have to watch On the Waterfront, so you can see who this guy Brando is and why I think most of the leading actors today can't hold a candle. I said, you got to watch Manchurian Candidate, and then you got to watch, I always forget the damn title, Rosebud. Yeah, I can't think of the damn. I always forget the name of the damn movie. Those are to me, 3 greatest movies.
Last one. Your favorite person from history that you love to hear about?
Eesh. Wow, that's crazy. Who would I wanna? I don't know. Somebody I'm pretty fascinated with even maybe thought about doing a one-man show and it never happened, is Edgar Casey.
Yeah.
Because I just still like, there's never been anybody who seems to have done what he's done before or since, you know, on the level he did it. And it's documented, and people actually, you know, for some crazy methods got healed. It's just fascinating to me, what he was able to channel, you know, as it were. And I think most of the time, you know, I'd be like, I don't know about that. But hey, it's documented. And in fact, a lot of these things that he would cure people of that they couldn't be cured of happened. So, you know, I find that, but I also find he was very religious as growing up, and still was, and he had like a real conflict with what he was doing. Like, is this the work of demons, or like, you know, like, what am I? So he's doing this thing, and yet he's also questioning this thing the entire time. I find that fascinating too. Just the conflict he was having, the self-doubt he was having, even though people were getting cured.
Courtney, thank you so much for stopping by. I apologize for the audio issues. At this time, I'm giving you the floor. Feel free to plug away any of your shows or anything you need to talk about.
Yes, please. All right. So again, to plug the record, it's Courtney Gaines, Safe Haven. It's coming out October 2nd. And the only way you can get it is on Fake Fang Records. It's not going to be on iTunes or Spotify or any of that. You're going to have to go directly to Fake Fangs. And now you can go on there and you can listen to the whole thing 3 times. So you can listen to it 3 times. And if you at that point you like it, you can do a digi download of it, or you can buy a limited number of CDs. And there's going to be even a more limited run of signed CDs. And on Monday, again, the song Lookout's going to be released to listen to. Again, you can listen to it 3 times. If you like it, you can do a pre-order. If you do a pre-order, you can get a personally signed CD. That's the only way you're going to get one of those, unless you bring one to a convention. So so hopefully that'll inspire some people to do it. That'd be great to get some pre-sales. But that's the only way we're doing it. We're sort of going direct this time. We're not going through all these. I've done a lot of these platforms before, and I don't really think they did much to help me sell records. So this time we're going to do it ourselves.
You're going total grassroots. Courtney, thank you again so much for being on the show. And I thank this audience for taking the time to check out the show. And we'll see you all next week.